A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Congratulations to all of you and the community on the Khushali of Eid Zehra, and of course the imamat of Imam Hujjat al-Mahdi alayhi salam. Our program for tonight, inshallah, will start with Hadith al-Qisa, followed by a short lecture, inshallah, conclude with Qasida, and then Ziyarat. So with that, let's get started with Hadith al-Qisa, which I will play via YouTube, inshallah.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. عن جابر بن عبد الله الأنصاري عن فاطمة الزهراء عليه السلام بنت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله قال سمعت فاطمة أنها قالت دخل علي أبي رسول الله في بعض الأيام فقال السلام عليك يا فاطمة فقلت وعليك السلام قال إني أجد في بدني ضعفا فقلت له أعيذك بالله يا أبتاه من الضعف فقال يا فاطمة ائتيني بالكساء اليماني فغطيني به فأتيته بالكساء اليماني فغطيته به وصرت أنظر إليه وإذا وجهه يتلمع كأنه البدر في ليلة تمامه وكماله فما كانت إلا ساعة وإذا بولدي الحسن قد أقبل وقال السلام عليك يا أمه فقلت وعليك السلام يا قرة عيني وثمرة فؤادي فقال يا أمه إني أشم عندك راحة طيبة كأنها رائحة جدي رسول الله فقلت نعم إن جدك تحت الكساء فأقبل الحسن نحو الكساء وقال السلام عليك يا جدا يا رسول الله أتأذن لي أن أدخل معك تحت الكساء فقال وعليك السلام يا ولدي ويا صاحب حوضي قد أذنت له فدخل معه تحت الكساء فما كانت إلا ساعة وإذا بولدي الحسين قد أقبل وقال السلام عليك يا أمه فقلت وعليك السلام يا ولدي ويا قرة عيني وثمرة فؤادي فقال لي يا أمه إني أشم عندك راحة طيبة كأنها راحة جدي رسول الله فقلت نعم إن جدك وأخاك تحت الكساء فدنا الحسين نحو الكساء وقال السلام عليك يا جده، السلام عليك يا من اختاره الله، أتأذنني أن أكون معكما تحت الكساء؟ فقال وعليك السلام يا بلدي ويا شافع أمتي، قد أذنت لك. فدخل معهما تحت الكساء. فأقبل عند ذلك أبو الحسن علي بن أبي طالب وقال السلام عليك يا بنت رسول الله. فقلت وعليك السلام يا أبا الحسن ويا أمير المؤمنين. فقال يا فاطمة إني أشم عندك راحة طيبة كأنها راحة أخي وابن عمي رسول الله. فقلت نعم ها هو مع ولدك تحت الكساء. فأقبل علي نحو الكساء وقال السلام عليك يا رسول الله، أتأذنني أن أكون معكم تحت الكساء؟ قال له عليك السلام يا أخي ويا وصي وخليفتي وصاحب الباء، قد أذنت لك. فدخل علي تحت الكساء. ثم أتيت نحو الكساء وقلت السلام عليك يا أبتاه يا رسول الله، أتأذن لي أن أكون معكم تحت الكساء؟ قال وعليك السلام يا بنتي ويا بضعتي، قد أذنت لك. فدخلت تحت الكساء. فلما اكتملنا جميعا تحت الكساء أخذ بي رسول الله بطرفي الكساء وأومى بيده اليمنى إلى السماء وقال اللهم إن هؤلاء أهل بيتي وخاصتي وحامتي، لحمهم لحمي ودمهم دمي، يؤلمني ما يؤلمهم ويحزنني ما يحزنهم. أنا حرب لمن حاربهم وسلم لمن سالمهم وعدو لمن عاداهم ومحب لمن أحبهم. إنهم مني وأنا منهم، فاجعل صلواتك وبركاتك ورحمتك وغفرانك ورضوانك علي وعليهم، وأذهب عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا. فقال الله عز وجل يا ملائكتي ويا سكان سماواتي إني ما خلقت سماء مبنية ولا أرضا مدحية ولا قمرا منيرا ولا شمسا مضيا ولا فلكا يدور ولا بحرا يجري ولا فلكا يسري إلا في محبته هؤلاء الخمسة الذين هم تحت الكساء. فقال الأمين جبرائيل يا رب ومن تحت الكساء؟ فقال عز وجل هم أهل بيت النبوة ومعدن الرسالة هم فاطمة وأبوها وبعلها وبنوها. فقال جبرائيل يا رب أتأذن لي أن أهبط إلى الأرض لأكون معهم سادسا؟ فقال الله نعم قد أذنت لك. فهبط الأمين جبرائيل فقال السلام عليك يا رسول الله. العلي الأعلى يقرئك السلام ويخصك بالتحية والإكرام ويقول لك وعزتي وجلالي إني ما خلقت سماء مبنية ولا أرضا مدحية ولا قمرا منيرا ولا شمسا مضيا ولا فلكا يدور ولا بحرا يجري ولا فلكا يسري إلا لأجلكم ومحبتكم وقد أذن لي أن أدخل معكم. فهل تأذن لي يا رسول الله؟ فقال رسول الله وعليك السلام يا أمين وحي الله إنه نعم قد أذنت لك. فدخل جبرائيل معنا تحت الكساء فقال لأبي إن الله قد أوحى إليكم يقول إنما يريد الله ليذهب عنكم الرجس أهل البيت ويطهركم تطهيرا. فقال علي لأبي يا رسول الله أخبرني ما لجلوسنا هذا تحت الكساء من الفضل عند الله. فقال النبي والذي بعثني بالحق نبيا واصطفاني بالرسالة نجيا ما ذكر خبرنا هذا في محفل من محافل أهل الأرض وفيه جمع من شيعتنا ومحبينا إلا ونزلت عليهم الرحمة وحفت بهم الملائكة واستغفرت لهم إلى يتفرقوا. فقال علي إذا والله فزنا وفاز شيعتنا ورب الكعبة. فقال أبي رسول الله يا علي والذي بعثني بالحق نبيا واصطفاني بالرسالة نجيا، ما ذكر خبرنا هذا في محفل من محافل أهل الأرض، وفيه جمع من شيعتنا ومحبينا، وفيهم مهموم الله وفرج الله همه، ولا مغموم الله وكشف الله غمه، ولا طالب حاجة الله وقضى الله حاجته. فقال علي إذا والله فزنا وسعدنا، وكذلك شيعتنا فازوا وسعدوا في الدنيا والآخرة ورب الكعبة.
قال الله المؤمنين والمؤمنات سورة مباركة الفاتحة. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله الذي لا يبلغ منهجه القائلون ولا يحصي نعماءه العادون ولا يؤدي حقه المجتهدون، الذي لا يدركه ضد الهمم ولا يناله غوص الفتن، الذي ليس لصفته حد محدود ولا نعت موجود ولا وقت معدود ولا أجل ممدود، فطر الخلائق بقدرته ونشر الرياح برحمته ووتد بالسفور ميدان أرضه، ثم الصلاة والسلام والتحية والإكرام على الرسول الأنام، الرسول المكي المدني القرشي الحاشمي العربي، سيد العرب والعجم، سيدنا وحبيبنا وطبيب قلوبنا وطبيب نفوسنا، هادينا ومولانا المصطفى الأمجد المحمود الأحمد، الذي سمي في السماء بأحمد وفي الأرض بأبي القاسم محمد، وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين المأسومين المظلومين. أما بعد، فقد قال الله سبحانه تبارك وتعالى في كتابه المجيد وفرقانه الحميد وقوله الحق: بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. يوم ندعو كل أناس بإمامهم، آمنا بالله. صدق الله العلي العظيم. اللهم صل على My respected elders, brothers, sisters in Islam, Assalamu alaikum jami'an wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. The extraordinary 2-month period of mourning that we as Shias participate in every year reached its conclusion last night with the wafat of our 11th Imam, Imam Hassan al-Askari, salawatullahi wa salamu alayhi. If you recall, over the past 70 days, we have commemorated the shahadat of no less than 6 infallibles. We remembered Imam al-Hassan, Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. We remembered Imam Sajjad, Imam Ali al-Rida, Imam Hassan al-Askari, and of course the Holy Prophet himself, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. And in addition to that, we marked the shahadat of various other noble personalities. We had the likes of Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas, we had the likes of Ali al-Akbar, we had Sayyida Sakina alayhi salam, we had Bibi Masuma Yaqub alayhi salam, we had of course all of the shahadat that passed away on the plains of Karbala. And finally, after all of this, after this intense period of mourning and of sorrow, we have removed the black clothes from our centers, we have removed the black clothes from our bodies, and now we go forth after this period, inshallah, to take forward what we have learned during that time. So with this in mind, one of the questions that bears asking on this day is, what have I learned over the last couple of months? And what can I take from the various jewels and gems and the lessons and the messages from the events of Karbala? What are those things that I may be deficient in? What are those things that I may need to focus on? What are those things that I may need to improve in my own life? Perhaps I am one who needs to focus, for example, on the importance of hijab, whether it be from non-mahram family members or friends or others, or in general, even online, in social media presence. Either I don't observe hijab right now, or I don't give it the importance and attention that is due. But during these last 2 months, I heard about how important it was to the women of Karbala, to the women in the camp of Imam al-Hussein, and the care and the importance that they gave to their hijab. And perhaps that should now reignite within me and spur me to renew my concentration in this particular area. Or perhaps it's not hijab, perhaps I am someone who needs to concentrate and focus on my salat, on my prayer. As even during the battle, even during the day of Ashura on the land of Karbala, this salat was remembered. And Imam Hussein salawatullahi wa salamu alayhi prayed a special prayer for Abu Thamama, who brought it to the attention of the army that the time had come for salah. Perhaps I need to reaffirm my commitment to salat, to praying on time. Perhaps I need to make more of an effort to pray in jama'ah, to pray in congregation, and to earn the thawab and the benefits that come and the unity that comes with the jama'ah. Or perhaps I am someone who needs to focus simply on submitting to the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in all times and at all states. And I need to remember that the likes of Imam al-Hussein and Sayyidah Zainab alayhi salam, that they offered the sajda of shukr when every conceivable thing was going against them, when every possible trial and tribulation was in their face. They were not ready to give up. They were giving everything that they had, qurbatan ilallah. And if we come to me, why is it that I cannot give? Forget my life. Why is it that I cannot give the simple things in my life? Perhaps my wealth, perhaps my time, perhaps my effort. Why is it that I cannot give those for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? These are questions that each one of us needs to take beyond these 2 months, and we need to ask ourselves and introspect, and we need to honestly answer them for ourselves so that we can go forward in the rest of the year. In any case, tonight is the night of the 9th night of Rabi al-Awwal, a night when we celebrate an Eid known as Eid al-Zahra. And there are many traditions from historians and from the Ahlul Bayt regarding the merits of this day. We even have narrations that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam himself, Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad, used to celebrate. Where a companion of the 10th Imam narrates back from Hudayfa Yamani, who went to the house of Rasulullah and saw that Rasulullah, along with Amir al-Mu'mineen and Hasanain, were sitting around the table. They were wearing new clothes and they were celebrating on this day. Now, narrators of history suggest several historic events which mark the 9th of Rabi al-Awwal as significant. Firstly, some historians are of the opinion that this day marks the birth of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Of course, there are 2 other dates that are more popular. We have the 12th of Rabi al-Awwal and we have the 17th of Rabi al-Awwal, with that being the most popular and the most accepted narration amongst the Shia. However, the date doesn't make much of a difference. In fact, Ayatollah Ruhullah Khomeini, may Allah be pleased with him, had declared the week between today, between the 9th and the 17th of Rabi al-Awwal, as Usbu' al-Wahda, as the week of unity. because all Muslims mark the birth of the Prophet sometime during this week. And thus Muslims all over the world are encouraged to unify, to get together, to celebrate the birth of Rasulullah for this entire week, for this Usbu' al-Wahda. This is one of the narrations. Secondly, it is narrated that this was the day when the Ahl al-Bayt ended their mourning following the tragedy of Karbala. That it was the first time after the massacre of his father, Imam al-Hussein, and the rest of the family and companions, that our fourth Imam, Imam Ali Zainul Abidin, salawatullahi wa salamu alayhi, smiled. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. And in this regard, it is also reported in Bihar al-Anwar that this was when the Ahl al-Bayt brought their mourning to an end, as Mukhtar Thaqafi, one of the companions and followers of the Ahl al-Bayt, took revenge on the killers of Imam al-Hussein and his family and companions. So that's another significance of this particular day. And thirdly, this day of Eid achieves more honor and more glory and more excellence, as this is the auspicious day that the crown of Imamah was passed to the Imam of our time, of our era, our 12th Imam, Imam al-Mahdi, Sahib al-Asri wal-Zaman. And for us as Shia, one of the key duties that we have is the waiting and preparing for the arrival of our Imam. In fact, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam has said, Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad, intidaru al-faraj bis-sabr ibadah. That waiting for the faraj, for the relief, for the reappearance, for the coming out of occultation of your Imam with sabr, with patience, is ibadah, is a form of worship. And if we can do this intidar, if we can do this waiting for our Imam in the right way, then we will have attained a greatly elevated status in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Our fourth Imam, Imam Sajjad alayhi salam, he has a hadith, Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad, where he narrates in Bihar al-Anwar that surely the people who lived during the time of the occultation, during the time of the ghaibah of the 12th Imam, and they have a firm belief in the Imamah of the 12th Imam, and they are awaiting for his advent. So they have belief and they are waiting for the advent of the Imam. What about these people? They are afdala ahla kulli zaman. They are the best of people of every age. The best of people of all time. Why? لأن الله تعالى ذكره. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, great is his mention, أعطاهم من العقول والأفهام والمعرفة. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has granted them from the intellect and the understanding and the cognizance that will give them what? That will permit them to live during this period of the occultation the same way as if they were living if the Imam is still alive. Subhanallah. So this is one of the benefits that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, that if you can do this the right way, if you can have what is in this hadith, then you are amongst the best people of all times as you are waiting for Imam. Now, what are the two things that were mentioned in here? Belief and intidar. Belief and waiting. So this sounds easy, right? We are all believers in our Imam. We all believe in the 12th Imam. And we're all waiting. We're waiting for him to come. So why is this so hard? Don't we already do both of these things? Well, first of all, the intidar and waiting. Perhaps this waiting is not the type of waiting that we are used to. It's not the type of waiting when you go to the doctor's office and you're waiting for the doctor to come out and you play games on your phone, or you do crossword puzzles, or you read those magazines that they have at the doctor's office. It's not that type of waiting. This waiting, this intidar, is an active state of waiting, not a passive state of waiting. It's a type of waiting that should focus our mind towards the direction of the one whom we are awaiting, which means that we are constantly aware of our goal, that we're constantly striving to achieve this goal and to be prepared for that advent, for the coming of our Imam. This waiting, if we do it in the right way, it will, as we are waiting, we will correct ourselves and we will increase our love towards our blessed Imam. This waiting for the Imam is a test for the believers. It's a test for the believers. Why? Because only if we truly believe and we are convinced that the Imam is really coming. Only if that is the case, then will we strive and will we work towards being amongst those who will be his followers when he comes. And this takes us to the second point then. There's the waiting and there's the belief. And as mentioned, the belief that Iman leads then to Amal. Iman and Amal go hand in hand. This belief leads to actions. And we need to then ask ourselves again, what are we prepared to do? What are we prepared to give up for when the Imam of our time comes? That we should be called the best people of every age. What are we going to do to achieve this? Are we already amongst the followers of our blessed Imam? Or do we have much work that we still need to do in order for you and I to get there? Now, to answer this, perhaps it would be useful to look back, because obviously this is the 12th Imam that we are waiting. And so there were Imams that came before him. And those Imams that came before him, they had companions that were with them, that were with those holy Imam. So if we look back at those companions, perhaps we can glean from their lives. What is it that a true companion looks like? What is it that our Imam is looking for? And if we consider the lives and the sacrifices of these companions, then perhaps we can measure, we can gauge ourselves against these companions. And then, as we compare ourselves, then that will jolt those of us who need it. Myself, first of all, those who do not measure up, so that we can awaken from our slumber, so that we can wake up from our sleep, so that we can realize our weakness and our guilt and work towards being the true companion of our beloved Imam. If we look back at the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad, we have the likes of Bilal, for example, a slave who endured huge rocks being placed upon his chest, crushing him, crushing his bones. And yet he refused to give up, and yet he kept on saying, Ahad, Ahad, Allah is one, Allah is one. Would we do the same? Are we ready to endure severe hardships and pain for when our Imam comes? Or would we be the type of people who would give in? If we go forward and look at the companions of Amir al-Mu'mineen, we look at people the likes of Salman al-Farsi or Abu Dhar al-Ghaffari or Ammar bin Yasir or Malik al-Ashtar. Can we compare ourselves to these? Are we the followers of the Imam of our age just like they were the followers of the Imam of their age? We've heard the stories of all of these personalities. Can we live up, for example, to the sacrifice and the wisdom of Maytham Tammar, who did not cease to praise the commander of the faithful, even though it meant that his tongue would be cut out, even though it meant that he was going to be crucified on a tree? In fact, this is a man who would go and water the very tree that his Imam told him, that this tree is the tree on which you will be hung and you will be crucified because of your love for me. And he went and he watered that tree every day to make sure that he took care of what his Imam was taking. How would you and I act in such a situation? Would we do the same thing? Do we have that sort of faith and that sort of love and that sort of sacrifice for the Imam of our time? Move forward and we come to the martyrs of Karbala, those ashab that were the ashab and companions of Hussein ibn Ali, who, because of their love, sacrificed themselves while defending the Imam of their time. And they were martyred in the process. They were the Shia. They were the followers of the Imam of their time, just as we strive to be the followers and the Shia of the Imam of our time. They were ready to be cut into pieces 100 times and be sacrificed for the Imam. What about us? What are we willing again to give up for our Imam? Would we give up even our wealth, our time, our efforts, any of these things, our conveniences, even those little things, let alone our lives? Would we be willing to give them up for the Imam of our time? And if not, then can we truly be considered as his followers? We move forward and we come to the time of the 6th Imam, and we see a person like Hisham bin Hakam, who in the debates crushed and defamed the opponents of Imamate in such a way that he was called the assistant of the Imam of his time by Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam. Can we do the same as we are defending the Imam of our time, as we defend his Imamah, as we defend his wilayah, as we defend his existence and that he is going to be coming back? Are we equipped with the knowledge? Are we equipped with the understanding to do so? Or would we fail miserably if we try to enter into such debates and conversations and discussions? From what we know in the traditions of Rasulullah and the infallible Imams, the Imam of our time, the Imam of our age, Imam Zaman, has special responsibilities, which other Imams did not have. He is going to establish a universal government. He will fill the earth with righteousness and justice. He will uncover the earth's treasures and natural resources. He will improve and develop the land. And in this way, people's awareness and their understanding will also be heightened and improved. And therefore, if we, as followers of such an Imam, we have a very particular duty that we have to be ready to assist him in this tremendous and this huge and this noble cause. Should we not endeavor to obtain the things that we need, the competence, the merit of being his companions when he reappears by divine command? And to do this, we have to be able to recognize our Imam, and we have to prepare for his return in the right way. And this is so important and essential that in the Holy Prophet's traditions we read that he says, "Man mata lam ya'rif imam zamanihi mata maytatan jahiliyya." That whoever dies and he doesn't know the Imam of his time, he dies a death of ignorance. And furthermore, in the Holy Quran, in Surah Bani Israel, Surah 17, verse 71, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us, يَوْمَ نَدْعُو كُلَّ أُنَاسٍ بِإِمَامِهِمْ. That on that day, on the day of judgment, that is going to be a day when we will call every people with their Imam. So not only do we have to know our Imam, but we are going to be resurrected with him on the day of judgment. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. And therefore, during this period of the occultation, it is our duty to be awaiting and expecting the awaited Imam, and more importantly, to be preparing ourselves for his coming by bettering ourselves and by constantly striving to get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through the pathways of the Ahlul Bayt, through the guidance of the Holy Quran, and perhaps two areas. If we're looking for specifics on what we can work on, perhaps two areas that we can focus on are mentioned in a hadith by our sixth Imam, Imam Ja'far al-Sadiq, salawatullahi wa salamu alayhi. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad, who says that a person who would like to be amongst the companions of Al-Qa'im, the one who wants to be min ashab al-Qa'im, what should he do? فَلْيَنْتَظِرْ. He should be in a state of intidhar. And what does this mean? What does this intidhar mean? وَلْيَعْمَلْ بِالْوَرَعَةِ. He should do his deeds with wara'a wa mahasin al-akhlaq, and the best of akhlaq. And if he does so, وَهُوَ مُنْتَظِرْ. And if he does these two things, then he is truly amongst those who are waiting for his Imam. So in this hadith, we have two areas that we can look at, that we can focus on, that we can try and improve ourselves in. The first one is that we have to do our deeds with wara'a. Now, what is wara'a? Wara'a, we all know taqwa, right? Taqwa is God consciousness. Taqwa is basically fulfilling all of the obligations that we have towards Allah and staying away from all of the things that are forbidden to us. If we do everything that is wajib and we stay away from everything that is haram, in essence, this is taqwa. In theory, it's very simple. In practice, as we know, it's a little bit more difficult. So this is taqwa. Wara'a then is an extension of taqwa. It takes it one step further. In wara'a, not only do you do everything that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has commanded you to do, and not only do you abstain from everything that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made haram, but in addition to this, you also practice precaution. Basically, you abstain from those things that are doubtful, and they might be permissible, but you stay away from them. Why? Because of the fear that they might lead to you to something that is haram, and therefore you stay away from them. So you practice precaution. If you want to think of it in perhaps more real terms, if there's a cliff, you don't want to fall off the edge of the cliff. That would be that you have left taqwa, but you don't even want to go near that edge of the cliff, for fear that if you go near the edge, perhaps you will fall down, right? So that is wara'. You stay away from the edge of the cliff, stay away so that you may save yourself from falling down in the end. right? So this is one of the components of intidar of our iman, that we practice this wara'a in our a'mal, in the deeds that we perform. Not only do we do what is right, stay away from what is wrong, but we also exercise precaution and use good judgment in doing the things that we do. And the second component of what the Imam mentioned is that we do our amal with mahasin al-akhlaq, with that of the best of akhlaq, the best of character, the best of morals, the best of ethics, the best of etiquettes, all of these put together. To have good akhlaq is very important, but again, just like wara'a, it is difficult. And this is why one of the main missions of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, when he was sent, he told the people, "Inni bu'ithtu li'utammimu makarim al-akhlaq," that I have been sent in order to perfect your morals, to make you reach this, to help you to see this and to reach this makarim al-akhlaq, this height of akhlaq. Right? So this is one of the key duties and key components of the mission and the teachings of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And of course, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. And of course, we know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala himself, he praises Rasulullah when it comes to this particular aspect, where he says that, وَإِنَّكَ لَعَلَىٰ خُلُقٍ عَظِيمٍ. In Surah Al-Qalam, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that, وَإِنَّ لَكَ لَأَجْرًا غَيْرَ مَمْنُونَ, that surely, O you, O Rasulullah, there is a great, unending reward. وَإِنَّكَ لَعَلَىٰ خُلُقٍ عَظِيمٍ, and surely you have the most outstanding of akhlaq and the most outstanding of character. And with regard to this akhlaq also, it is narrated that when Rasulullah was sitting with his companions, one of them asked him, he said, Rasulullah, who is going to be with you? Who do you love the most? Who is going to be with you on the day of judgment? And Rasulullah replied, he said that on the day of Qiyamah, the one closest to me will be the one with the best of akhlaq and the one who is the most humble. And therefore, if we're looking for specific, tangible things that we can take away as we prepare for the intidar of our imam, we can focus and perfect these two. Do our deeds with wara'ah, with precaution, with God consciousness, and do our deeds with mahasin al-akhlaq, with the best of etiquette, with the best of morals, in the best way that we can do them. And perhaps if we can do these two, then we will be counted amongst those who are in the true state of waiting for our imam. And inshallah, if that is the case, then perhaps we will be amongst those who are chosen to be the vehicles through which our imam spreads his message throughout this earth and spreads peace and truth and wisdom throughout the world. Let us raise our hands and pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Ya Allah, بحق محمد وأنت المحمود, وبحق علي وأنت الأعلى, وبحق فاطمة وأنت فاطر السماوات والأرض, وبحق الحسن وأنت المحسن, وبحق الحسين وأنت قديم الإحسان, وبحق 9 المعصومين من ذرية الحسين عليه السلام. اللهم اغفر للمؤمنين والمؤمنات والمسلمين والمسلمات الأحياء منهم والأموات. تابع بيننا وبينهم بالخيرات إنك مجيب الدعوات إنك على كل شيء قدير. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. Ya Allah, hasten the reappearance of Imam al-Hujjah, Sahib al-Asr wa Zaman. Help us to be amongst his helpers and his followers both now and when he returns. Help us so that we may be amongst those who are in the right state of intidar, that we are waiting in the right way, and help us to perfect ourselves and to implement the lessons that we have learned over these last 2 months, the sacrifices of Imam al-Hussein and of all of the A'imma and the Ma'sumeen that we have commemorated over the past 2 months. Ya Allah, help us to learn from them, to follow in their path, to follow in the path of Ahlul Bayt and in the guidance of the Holy Quran. Ya Allah, guide us always on the right path, the path of those whom you have blessed, not of those whom you are angry with, nor of those who have gone astray. وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين.
Farming. مجھے لشکر سے ملا دے ایسا نہ ہو آقا میرا حل من کی صدا دے اللہ اللہ مجھے نظروں کو میری لائے کے دیدار بنا دے پردہ جو پرا ہے میری آنکھوں سے ہٹا دے ہادی یہ زماں کا مجھے پرنور دکھا دے اللہ اللہ مجھے لشکر مہدی ہر ایک نشا کفر و ضلالات کا مٹا دوں ہر راہ میں ایک دیپ صداقت کا جلا دوں اس خیر عمل کی مجھے توفیق خدا دے اللہ اللہ مجھے لشکر مہدی سے ملا لکھ دے میری تقدیر میں مولا کی غلامی حاصل مجھے ہو جائے یہ اعجاز دوامی ہر خواہش دنیا کو میرے دل سے مٹا دے اللہ اللہ مجھے لشکر مہدی سے ملا شامل رہے لہجے میں صدا حرف صداقت شمشیر تلے میں بھی کرو ایسی عبادت اے کاش مجھے فاطمہ زہرا یہ دعا دے اللہ اللہ مجھے سے ملا شبیر کے انصار میں شامل ہو میرا نام جو کا ہو میرے شر میں وہی ہو میرا انجام خاک قدم حضرت شبیر بنا دے اللہ اللہ مجھے علی کا نام بھی نام خدا راحت جا ہے علی کا نام بھی نام حرز طفلا ہے علی کا نام بھی نام خدا دل جوان ہے لیا نام علی تو بلا سب تلی عرش اعظم پہ لکھا ہے نام علی پر مشکل تو کہہ دو یا علی رہے ورد الہی واسطہ تجھ کو محمد مصطفیٰ کا، الہی واسطہ تجھ کو علی مرتضیٰ کا، الہی واسطہ حسنین کا اور فاطمہ کا، رہے ایمان ہمارے سلامت صدا، مومنوں کو نہ ہو کوئی رنج و بلا، پرے مشکل تو کہہ دو مدد یا علی، رہے شیعہ دے علی، رہے شیعہ دے علی، پرے مشکل تو صلی السلام محمد وآل محمد.
Brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum. Just a really quick announcement before we conclude the ziyarat. Inshallah, our next program will be on Saturday, October 23rd, celebrating Milad al-Nabi and the wiladat of our Imam Jafar Sadiq alayhi salam. The program will start at 6:20. The mosque will open at 6 p.m. Namaz time will be at 6:23, followed by dinner. And then inshallah, the Milad program. Our guest speaker for that evening will be Sister Huma Batul Sayyid, who's very well known in the local LA community. So inshallah, she will be our local live speaker for that evening. With that, we will now conclude the ziyarat and then inshallah end the program.
افضل الصلاة والسلام ہے پانچ ورنوں مل جہار داتان احمد وعلی زہرا و حسن، شبیر سے لے تا امام زمان، شبیر سے لے تا امام زمان، ایک ایک پہ صدا صلوات پڑھو، صلوات صلوات کے اس پہ نثار گوہر جو نبی بلند صفات ہوئے، صلوات صلوات و سلام یا امام زمان، فرما حضور یا امام زمان. السلام علیکہ یا رسول اللہ، السلام علیکہ یا حبیب اللہ، السلام علیکہ یا امیر المؤمنین ویا سید الوصیین، السلام علیکہ یا خدیجۃ الکبریٰ ام المؤمنین والمؤمنات، السلام علیکہ یا فاطمۃ الزہراء سیدتی نساء العالمین، السلام علیکہ یا مولاي یا حسن المجتبى، السلام علیکہ یا ابا عبد اللہ الحسین وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين، السلام عليك يا علي بن الحسين زين العابدين، السلام عليك يا محمد بن علي الباقر، السلام عليك يا جعفر بن محمد الصادق، السلام عليك يا موسى بن جعفر الكاظم. السلام عليك يا علي بن موسى الرضا وعلى أختك فاطمة المعصومة. السلام عليك يا محمد بن علي التقي. السلام عليك يا علي بن محمد الهادي. السلام عليك يا حسن بن علي العسكري. السلام عليك يا حجة الله يا ابن الحسن يا مولاي يا صاحب الزمان سيدي الأمان والأمان والأمان. السلام عليك يا خليفة الرحمن. السلام عليك يا شريك القرآن. السلام عليك يا كعبة الإيمان إمامنا وإمام الإنس والجان. عجل الله لك ما وعدك من النصر وظهور الأمر ورحمة الله وبركاته مع الصلوات.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم كل وليك الحجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك طوعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وأجل فرجهم. With that, Mu'mineen, that concludes our program for tonight. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.